I guess we're gonna be continuing some knock knock stories, except for this one comes with a little bit of a twist. This story is from Janet here on TikTok. Thank you so much for letting me share this story with everyone. She starts off this story saying that she listened to one of your stories. Wait, give me a second. I'm gonna put the story here. It's Knock at Midnight, just in case you want to go back and listen to that. But she listened to that story and it triggered a memory of something that happened to her that was very similar. Reading her story reminded me of something very specific, but I'm not gonna tell you until the very end. The other day, I was listening to one of your knock knock stories about someone who had a knock on their door on New Year's Eve midnight, and it brought a memory that I put out of my mind for a while. It was around 2015 and we were celebrating. As I was prepping the cider cups with 12 grapes in the kitchen, I felt a weird feeling that someone was staring at me from outside of my back door. I don't remember if she knocked, or as I turned to see and walked closer to the door, I noticed what looked like a young woman. Not sure, but she looked between 15 to 23 years old, but very short and petite. She told me she needed to pee urgently and asked if she could come in the house. I'm a school teacher and I'm always willing to help people, but it was not in my nature to tell her to go away, but I did. I told her to go use the neighbor's restroom because I thought she was one of them, or go to the restaurant to use their restrooms about 1 block away. I forgot to mention that she was at my back door, and in order to get to it, she had to walk through a driveway my neighbors and I shared. Between the pair of cars, even though it was not my initial thought, I later found it odd that she squeezed through the driveway exclusively to get to my back door and not walk up my front very well lit porch. Red flags. But at the time, I didn't think about it. All I felt was the need to get her away from me, away from my family. I was repelled by her and I just wanted her to leave. So I apologized but said no. She insisted I let her in and repeated, "Let me use your restroom, let me in." I dismissed her as a drunken girl my neighbors might have invited. I then went back to my living room to do the countdown with my family, and as we were done, I was putting the cups in the sink. I again felt that dreaded pit in my stomach, feeling that someone was there. I go to the door cautiously, and again the tiny girl was there. I now was a lot harsher and a lot more insistent for her to leave. I felt so angry and desperate for her to leave, not a feeling a young woman would cause in me normally. By this time, my family noticed my anger. They kept me in the living room, and when the girl came to the door for the 3rd time, my older sister, who was a social worker, went to the door. To her, she changed her story and told her she was left behind by someone and needed to come in and call her family. From the living room, I responded loudly and desperately for her to not let her in, so the girl finally left when we called the cops. That seemed to work and she left and didn't come back. 3 other weird facts: I was never able to see her face because she stood directly under the backyard light shadow. My husband was able to get out of his shift and rush home to be able to be with us for the last bit of the celebration. When he pulled into the driveway, he should have been able to see her if she was walking out and away of the backyard, but he saw nothing. And lastly, my dogs were in the room literally right by where she was standing, yet neither of them even barked. So by the time I got to this part of the story, I was like, black-eyed kids. They have to be black-eyed kids because insistent on coming in, couldn't see their face, looked like a kid. I never knew what it was, and some friends mentioned it might have been black-eyed children. I remember that I never got to see her eyes because she was standing in the same spot under the lamp. I have read black-eyed kid stories, and it's always that same feeling of like dread of not wanting to let them in, which is crazy because normally if a kid's knocking on your door, you don't feel that way. So like, fuck that. I think it's time to put a Ring camera on the back door too, because what the fuck? So be honest, was anybody else listening to this and thinking it sounds like black-eyed kids?